America and throughout the diaspora? Why is it that we fail to see the world through our own racial and cultural lens? What do we do to further the cause of our collective survival and viability? Now, it's time for us to emerge from the racial, cultural, economic, sociological, physiological captivity of the past 500 years and move towards the inauguration of a new and forward-thinking perspective on what it means to collectively and progressively think black. It's okay. Really, it is.
Back to black, I'm thinking.
Think black. It's okay.
It's the way we stop this sinking.
Really, it is.
'Cause we're not ever truly free without love and reciprocity.
I am not a Christian nor a Muslim. I'm not violent nor nonviolent. I am not rich nor poor. I'm not a scoundrel or a priest. I'm a black man, an African man, seeking liberation for myself and my people in the throes of white supremacy. I am also the manifestation of our Creator, who breathed air into my nostrils and gave us all the tools necessary to reach our higher selves. I am Kazemde Ajamu. Welcome. You are? Kenneth Williams. You are? You are? You are? Cheryl.
Daniel Ryan. Steve.
Barisma, Tasha,
Kevin. Sean Bandy.
Wakiba Reed, Marcella.
We want to get all of you guys in the room. When I look around you and I see your faces, your smiles, thank you for coming in, I think if I went back in your genealogy, I imagine where you may come from. Various different parts of Africa, different tribes, different countries. You see that? Do you imagine that you could go back? And when I think about it, 500 years ago, they spoke different languages. You may have spoke a different language than your ancestors. You prayed to different gods. You had different rituals and customs. There was differences. Those differences divided us on the onslaught from Europeans. There was no unity. This could be one of the reasons that the struggle was independent of each other. Sort of like today. We allow the differences to divide us. We get caught up in what ideology, what religion, sexual orientation. We're debating each other and fighting each other on these differences instead of looking at the whole picture. We see what's going on, and we all want to do something, but we're not keeping our focus on the enemy or the problem or the issue, or let's call it white supremacy. It's not to say all white people are bad, but it's a system, it's an institution. And in order to combat that, we have to find ways to come down. This seminar, the building blocks for group economics and empowerment has to begin first with how do we tear down the walls that prevent us from coming together? Because we could talk about all the solutions together, but if we can't unify around any one thing, any one cause, regardless of your ideology, it's not going to move far further than that. I don't know, no, you have. There's a story told by Baba Barashengo, which was told to him by an Akan priest in Ghana. And the title of the story, you familiar with it? The title of the story is The Fabled City of Pali. I'm going to give you a summary of that story. There was a traveler He traveled all over the world, going in different countries, cities, nations, trying to learn their culture, their wisdoms, but he also wanted to find a place to rest and lay his head, grow a family. And he was in West Africa, and he came into this city named Pali, and he walked from one end of it to the other end of it, back and forth, and he was in total amazement because he had never seen anything like this. Everything was beautiful. He had been traveling, and he had never seen a city that looked like this. So in the distance, he saw an elder, and he went up to the elder and he said, "Elder, help me, please. I have been all over the world, and I have never seen a city like this. All the homes are beautiful. They look like mansions. Everyone is dressed well in their kente cloth. The children are healthy. I can't figure this out. I've never seen this before. Everywhere I go, there's been an upper class, a middle class, and a low class, or poor people. Everywhere. There's been disease and famine and crime, but I don't see any of that here. How could this be? I'm confused. I think that I'm sunstroke, or I'm hallucinating." The elder looked at him, not quite understanding what he was saying. He was saying, "Well, son, when we invite, or when someone comes to our city and want to live amongst us, what we do first is we sit down and we have the elders and the mothers of the community ask a couple of questions. We want to see what their character is. Iwa is Yoruba for character, good character. And then the priests and the priestesses observe this individual. Then we come in and we have a meeting. And we sit down and we discuss this individual before we decide whether we want to welcome him into the community. And once we decide that we're going to do that, then we throw this big celebration, this big gathering. And each one of us at this gathering brings a brick and $1. A brick and $1. So the traveler said, "Well, elder, how many people are in your community?" And the elder said, "About 100,000. So that means once you come into our city, you start off with a mansion, we help you build it, and $100,000. Now that's the story, fable story of Pali. Imagine, I need you to imagine, close your eyes if you have to, and imagine a city, a place like that. That seems far-fetched. Seems almost impossible. But it's very simple. First, perspective. Our perspective today is Flint, right? Baltimore, south side of Chicago. That's what we see, that's what we realize. And actually, that's becoming normal. The deaths, the mayhem, it's becoming normal. We've accepted it. That's become our perspective. But we're crying out, wanting for change. And we really don't know whether we go through this ideology, that ideology, what to do. How can I be of help? And sometimes we overthink things. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies, right? I was watching this program called MLK Now. It was a 5-hour program at the Riverside Church in Harlem, New York. I watched it on video. It took me 3.5 days to get through this, but it was fascinating. I mean, absolutely fascinating. They had actors and actresses, Chris Rock, Michael G. Jordan, Harry Belafonte, and what each of these actors and actresses did was recited a lecture from Patrice Lumumba, his independence in the Congo, Martin Luther King, his speech at Riverside Church, Malcolm X, his speech about police brutality, Sojourner Truth, Ain't I a Woman, Angela Davis when she got out of jail. All these speeches, and there were several others, And at the end of those speeches, it was really fascinating because you had different religions, Muslim, Christians, you had different ideologies. Fred Hampton was also one. You had Black Panther Party represented, the Civil Rights Movement, Nation of Islam, all these differences. But when you lay these speeches up side by side, there's one common theme. They all wanted the liberation and equality for our people. They went about it different ways, and some of us in this room would rather, you might be civil rights movement. What movement do you identify with of the 60s? Black Panther Party, Civil Rights Movement, Nation of Islam? What do you identify closely with?
I don't identify.
Either one?
Black Panther.
Black Panther Party? Dan?
Black Panther Party.
Miss Bond? Civil Rights Movement?
I think
Civil Rights Movement?
Well, as a youngster, initially, as I got older, Malcolm X, presently, Black Panther.
Black Panther Party. Different ideologies. But what are we doing most of the time? We're arguing the merits and which one is right. Right? Our youth that are reading about it look at it as if they failed. Right? It didn't begin and end there. It's a continuum. We should be gleaming back at what their successes and what their failures are. We need to understand the mindset of our youth. I did Uber for a while, so I got a lot of young kids, young adults. And the one thing that was common, particularly amongst the black ones, is they were living their truth. They accepted their blackness, and they didn't care what anybody thought. That wasn't our reality in my generation. My mother told me, don't go on that white man's job trying to tell him how to do his work. You have to take that edge off. You know that black man edge? You got to take it off because that could be intimidating. So I didn't live my truth. And I did okay. We all did. But our youth, they think differently. And we're sitting there wondering, what are they thinking? We have to protect them. You can't go out there and have a successful career with your natural, because somebody's not going to like that. So here we are, we already creating lines of division. And we have to think, is that really productive? Are we moving the pendulum by debating the merits of one movement or another when we all want the same thing? Get in where you fit in. It's okay to discern. It's okay to ask questions. Sometimes it's okay to judge if it's done in love and not from a place of hate, not from a place of tearing down what one's path is, especially when that path is the same as yours. We're just going a different route.